Hello, I'm George McCraney, DUI and criminal defense attorney with offices in Douglas and Valdosta, Georgia. Today I wanted to give you a little bit of advice because we've had a lot of people calling us and coming by that have been charged with traffic offenses, running red lights, speeding, this kind of thing. And they basically have questions because they've decided they don't want to hire an attorney. They want to go through all that, all that aggravation of hiring an attorney, and they're planning on representing themselves. Now, I've got over 20 years of practicing criminal law in Georgia, and my advice is, basically blanket advice, don't go to court in Georgia on any traffic charge, criminal charge without an attorney. If you do, you're taking a chance that you could be convicted and it can come back to haunt you later, okay? Not only possibility of, even being sent to jail. I've seen people sent to jail over very minor charges, but also your insurance rates, points on your license, this kind of thing, and people don't realize the cost that can have for them. But now, if you've decided that you're going to go to court and you're going to represent yourself, I want to give you some advice to try to help you, okay? Now, the first bit of advice I want to give is be nice. Be nice to everyone at court. Be nice to the bailiff when you come in. Be nice to the clerk, the court reporter. Be nice to any of the officers. It's like my mother's always said, you can catch more flies with honey than you can vinegar. You want to be as nice as you can and professional when you're there to everybody, okay? Because that really can pay benefits down the road. Now, the second thing, dress nicely when you go to court. All right, today I'm not going to court. I don't have on a tie. All right, if I was going to court as an attorney, I'd have on a suit and tie. You don't have to wear a suit and tie when you go to court. Khaki pants, button-down collar, dress shirt will be fine. You don't have to wear a suit, a tuxedo, this kind of thing, but just look nice, look professional, look like you're going to church on Sunday. That can help you because everybody else is there with the court. They're going to be dressed. The officer's going to have on his uniform. The judge has got on the robe. I mean, that's sort of what you're looking at. All the attorneys that are there are going to have on their suit and tie. You need to look, not necessarily professional, but you need to look well dressed. Okay, and that also gives you a little bit of credibility with the court when you're there. Now, let's talk about the third thing. The third thing is I would recommend that you talk to the officer that gave you the ticket. Talk to that officer before your case is called in court, okay? Be nice, okay? Talk to him before court. The officer may be willing to reduce the charge to a warning. Say you're charged with speeding. He may agree to reduce it to a warning. You can always ask the officer if he's willing to help you in some way, okay? The worst thing they can say is no. I mean, that's the worst thing they can say. So it never hurts you to go ahead and talk with that officer ahead of time. I can guarantee you that as an attorney, if I was representing somebody there, that'd be the first thing I'm doing is talking ahead of time, whether it's 2 weeks ahead of time, a week ahead of time, or at least that day. We always want to talk to those officers because we may be able to resolve your case, okay? So you want to talk to that officer too. He may be willing to work with you, okay? Now, if you have any questions about a criminal case in Georgia, a DUI, traffic offenses, that kind of thing, feel free to give us a call. You can reach us at 833-927-6227, and we'll be glad to help you get the answers that you need, okay? But now, anytime that you go to court, again, I want to say it again, I recommend that you have an attorney because if you get convicted of a speeding charge, I've seen young people sometimes go into court. They don't realize the effect that a speeding charge will have on them. They get in and eventually wind up being either found guilty or pleading guilty. And what happens is they don't realize it, but down the road, in just a few weeks or month, they're going to get a notice from the state, their license is suspended. Okay? Then it's a lot harder for an attorney to come back in and back this thing up, if it's even possible to do, than it would have been to represent them in the first place. But this advice is designed to try to help you if you decided you're going to go in and represent yourself on some type of minor charge. Okay. Now, let's say you have multiple tickets. All right. Now, remember that officer, he can remove charges if he wants to. Okay. So, let's say you've got a speeding, you've got a running a red light, and you got a failure to maintain lane. The officer may say, okay, I'll tell you what, if you'll plead guilty, on a speeding and it won't put any points on your license, then I might agree to withdraw these other charges, and that'd be okay with me. If you can work something out like that, that's great, okay? Anytime that you are dealing with the officer, again, you want to be nice, you want to dress nicely, talk to that officer in a respectful manner, and then you shouldn't have any issues. And again, when I'm talking about dress nicely, let me tell you, I have seen some people that don't dress nicely when they come to court, okay? I've seen people that come to court and they're wearing marijuana leaf shirts. That's not a good thing to wear to court, okay? I even saw one person come into court with a F blank 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 the police shirt. That's not a good thing to have in court, okay? So if you're dressed nice, you're talking to the officer, you're being respectful to him, you're being nice to everybody there, you've got a much better chance of working with that officer, getting him to work with you to help you in some manner, okay? Now, let's talk about a big one. This is a big one. If you're going to court and you're going to plead not guilty, okay, don't admit that you're guilty to the judge. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people come into court and the judge will call their case and they will say, Miss So-and-so, you're charged with speeding. How do you plead? And they'll get up and say, I plead not guilty. And the judge will say, well, tell me what happened. And they'll say, okay, I'll admit, Judge, I was speeding, but I wasn't the only one speeding. You've just admitted that you were speeding. When you say that, only thing the judge is doing is trying to figure out what he's going to fine you. Okay? So don't admit you're guilty if you're going to plead not guilty. It's just not, it's not the thing to do. You're completely killing your case. Okay? So just don't do that. I've seen them not only speeding, I've seen them admit that, well, I was talking on my cell phone, but the reason I was talking on my cell phone, Judge, is because my mother's in the hospital and I was having to call to check on her. You're admitting that you've done it. Okay? It's just not a smart thing to do. So remember, if you're going to plead not guilty, don't admit that you've done it. Okay? Don't admit your guilt. All right? Now, the next thing, if you can delay court, sometimes that's good. All right? So if you can delay it, there's a possibility that the officer might not show up for whatever reason that is. Okay? Believe it or not, officers do quit. All right? They can get fired. They can be transferred to another department, and no longer have any interest in prosecuting a traffic case if they're now undercover narcotics or something along those lines. Officers can apply for and get a promotion basically and work for the state patrol. Okay, so there's a lot of things out there that can make an officer not available for court. All right, so delaying can be a good tactic. Even if you're, say, the reason you want to delay is because, hey, I'm going to go hire an attorney, Judge. I just need some more time to save my money, to go hire the attorney, to go talk to an attorney that I trust, that kind of thing. Sometimes if you can get it delayed, that will help. Now, the next thing, if an officer doesn't appear in court, it goes along with getting it delayed. Okay. Now, if the court knows why that officer's not in court, the chances that the judge is just going to dismiss the case is pretty slim. If the court knows, well, the officer's in the hospital, the officer's sick, the officer is on duty now and he's at a wreck site, anything like that and you say, well, Judge, I want my case dismissed because the officer's not present in court, the judge is going to continue the case. Okay? But if there's a reason out there that, he's been fired, he's been terminated, it's quite possible the judge would dismiss your case. So it's things like that you're looking for. But just because that officer's not there, if they say, hey, Judge, I'm Officer so-and-so and Officer Smith that's on this case, he's actually in training in Forsyth. Well, the judge is going to continue that case. It's not just automatically dismissed. There has to be a valid reason for the judge to do it. Okay? Now, again, I'm George McCraney, DUI criminal defense attorney with offices in Douglas and Valdosta, Georgia. If you've got a question about a criminal case, feel free to give us a call. We'll try to help you get the answers you need. You can reach us at 833-927-6227, and we'll be glad to try to help you. Okay? Now, let's see. A couple other things. Be prepared. When you go to court, be prepared. Don't wing it when you get there. Okay, know what you're going to say. If the judge asks you to tell your story, know what you're going to say ahead of time. All right? Don't just show up to court and try to wing it unless you're a lawyer. Don't try to do that. It's not a good idea. Okay? Trust me, the attorneys that show up to court and look like they know what they're doing, they know what they're doing because they prepared for their cases. Okay? They know what's going on. They're ready ahead of time. They're not there just winging it. All right? So don't wing it if you're not an attorney. When you go to court, it's serious business. It carries, even just a speeding ticket. A lot of people, again, think speeding ticket's no big deal. You can get convicted. You can lose your driver's license, especially if you're under 21. It will come back to haunt you on insurance rates. Okay? So, like I say, be prepared when you go to court. And if you want documents, if let's say you want to try to delay your case and you say, well, Judge, I got a speeding case, but I would like to see the documents on the officer's testing of his radar. All right, his certification run radar, and I'd like documentation that the radar was calibrated at the beginning of his shift and at the end of his shift. All right, well, if you're going to do that, you've got to request it in writing. And that process, lawyers call that discovery. And you've got to request all this stuff in writing, otherwise you're not going to get it. It's kind of a technical issue to deal with, but if you want information like that, you've got to request it. All right? Let's recap so everybody understands where we are. Number one, be nice when you go to court. Okay? Nice to everybody. Bailiff, clerk, court reporter, officers there, be nice to everybody. Again, dress nicely. You don't have to wear a suit and tie. Like I say, I'm not in court today. I don't have on my tie. But if you go to court, don't wear a tuxedo. I mean, that's certainly not necessary. But dress nicely, khaki pants, white button-down collar, long-sleeve shirt. That's fine. If you got tattoos, you probably want to wear a long-sleeve shirt. If you've got earrings in your ears or your nose or your lips, you might want to take those out. You want to look and dress as nice as you can. And I tell people just dress sort of like you're going to church. All right. The next thing is when you get there, you want to talk to that officer ahead of time. Before your case is called, you can ask that officer to work with you. If he can make it a warning, whatever you can do, ask the officer if he could help you. And if you weren't, a person that made him mad and he doesn't really remember, he might be really willing to work with you. So talk with him ahead of time. The worst thing he can say if you say, can you help me, is no. All right? If you got multiple tickets, remember that officer can drop some of those tickets if you want to work out a deal with them. If you can delay your court, sometimes that's good. And one of the big things is don't admit you're guilty if you're planning on pleading not guilty. Don't go in and say, I'm not guilty, Judge, but I admit I was speeding. That's not going to help you at all. All right. And if the officer doesn't appear in court, if there's a valid reason, you may be able to get it dismissed. If the officer's in training or he's in the hospital or he's working an accident, the court's just simply not going to do it just because he's not there. Okay? Be prepared when you get there. Know what you're going to say. Don't try to wing it. Okay? And if you're going to request documents, you got to do that in writing. It's called the discovery process in order to get the specific documents that you want. All right? I'm George McCraney, DUI criminal defense attorney with offices in Douglas and Valdosta, Georgia. If you have any questions, you can reach us at 833-927-6227, or you can also find us at McCraneyLawFirm.com. We've got a lot of videos on there, a lot of educational videos. You can even request a free copy of my book, The Truth About Your Georgia Criminal Case, and it will give you information all the way from the beginning to the end of a criminal case in Georgia. Okay? We'd send it to you absolutely free. I want everybody to get as much information as they can get about the way the Georgia courts work, about the way the laws work here in Georgia, because if you're not educated, you're operating in the dark, and that's not right. We try to help as many people as we can. Okay? Thank y'all for watching. Have a great day.